Hey folks, how was everybody's Thanksgiving? Mine was pretty good. I feeling better. I'm over that stomach virus I had 2 weeks ago. And for me, it was the first time my immediate family was able to come together in a couple months. So, being all together, we decided to take my nephew to see Ghostbusters Afterlife all together as a family outing on Black Friday. Now, look, I like Ghostbusters, but I wouldn't call myself, a super fan. Like, I've seen, all the movies, and I've seen the real Ghostbusters animated show, and I've seen Extreme Ghostbusters, and I've even seen some of the Filmation version. Even though I didn't completely hate Ghostbusters 2016, it did have the effect of setting the bar pretty low for this film. But you know what? I loved this movie. I loved that it was a very different sort of story from other films in this series. And if you know fans, you know that when you tell a different story than the one their precious childhood is based on, well, one day you will be recognized as the best Star Wars. But you know what? Most people actually really seem to like this movie, and that makes me very pleasantly surprised. Well, almost everybody. The people who were salty on Twitter for this particular movie not doing as well as they'd hoped, they didn't seem to like it. Also, I really like the passion that all the creators, especially the Reitman family, seem to have for this project. And like, it was really, really great watching Adam Savage work on this. He's got here is you can watch him on his YouTube channel making the Amazon death whistles, and then you can see it in the movie, and it's shown quite lovingly. And I really loved all of that. So I said this is a different kind of movie, and it's primarily a coming of age story for its main character, who is Phoebe Spangler, played brilliantly by McKenna Grace. And it's also Egon passing the torch to a younger generation, very much like Extreme Ghostbusters, and it takes a lot of hints, I think, from Extreme Ghostbusters more than any previously existing Ghostbusters media. And I would say, one of the most important things it takes is a female lead and a diverse cast. But, according to these people, us Ghostbusters fans, we just can't have female leads and diverse cast in Ghostbusters and like it, right? So let's briefly address this particular elephant in the room. Ghostbusters 2016 is a pretty terrible movie, but that's because of terrible writing and staggering incompetence at Sony. It's not the all female cast, and it's not even these specific actresses. And, like, barring Leslie Jones, I like these actresses in other things. Although, after her salty reaction to this movie, I don't think I'll ever watch her in anything again. It was never the diversity. Good organic writing, a cast of chemistry, and characters we actually care about are a lot more important than token diversity, even if what you care about is diversity. And throughout this film, we do grow to care about these characters. I can't have been the only one who, at certain points in this film, wanted to give Phoebe a hug and tell her everything was going to be all right. This movie isn't flawless, and I'm not saying that. As a child of the ecto cooler generation, the absence of and attempt to replace Slimer did not have me very happy. Like, even the 2016 one had Slimer. That is a thing the 2016 objectively does better than Afterlife, and it's kind of sad. But what it lacks in Slimer, it more than makes up for in Finn Wolfhard, who is in this movie far too much. Like, his whole character is completely superfluous, and it could have been cut entirely. And he slows the plot of this movie down, and the pacing was already terrible. I mean, look, it's a slow burn. It's a character study. It's got to be slow burn. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. The problem is For some reason, Jason Reitman has decided to have the characters spend almost an hour discovering everything the audience already knows about Ghostbusters. Like, dude, Ghostbusters is the title of your movie, and it gets old. These don't ruin the movie for me, I gotta say. I just think this whole film could have used an extra pass through the editing room, and had an extra year and a half they could have done that in. Since I mostly vlog about disability rights, and probably because I also put it somewhere in the title, I do want to talk about how this film works as autism representation, and about how, Ghostbusters is probably the perfect franchise for autism representation. See, Phoebe isn't just merely a socially awkward nerd with a love of science and no friends. Phoebe is heavily autistic coded. One of the most blatant in all of fiction, in fact. She has lines of dialogue about how she doesn't express her emotions like other people, and about how sensory stimulation makes her feel better. She also has dialogue from her mother, where we learn about how their father left in part because of his inability to adjust to Phoebe's eccentricities. And Finn Wolfhard's character, I'm just going to call him Finn Wolfhard, I don't remember his character's name, makes a joke about Phoebe's friendship with Podcast. He's a controversial character. I thought he was kind of endearing. But Finn Wolfhard gives a line about, "You made a friend." So it's very clear that there's something very different about the way Phoebe thinks. And even though this autism is so heavily implied, and even though it's so obvious, why doesn't the film just outright confirm that Phoebe is autistic? Well, look, autism representation is about 10 years behind gay representation. And the general impression I get is you can have an obviously autistic character. You can have a creator confirmed autistic character outside of the medium. But the characters in the media, make them as autistic as you want, but you can't ever call them autistic without the story becoming about that. You can almost imagine the autism moms in the theater screaming at the managers and the projectionists to stop the movie so we can get a discussion about how hard their lives are and how dare you show an autistic person in an empowered role. And this state of autistic representation is pretty sad in this franchise specifically. Why? See, there are only about a handful of openly autistic actors in Hollywood. Anthony Hopkins is one of them, Daryl Hannah is another, and of course, Dan Aykroyd. And also maybe Jerry Seinfeld, but I would prefer to repress that because I never found him particularly funny. So Dan Aykroyd, though, it's not just that he's one of the few openly autistic actors in Hollywood, but he has had a lifelong special interest in the paranormal, and as one of the primary creatives of Ghostbusters. Like, Ghostbusters Ghostbusters is Dan Aykroyd's baby, and he created it along with Ivan Reitman and the late Harold Ramis based on his special interest, see, writer's Dan Aykroyd, in the paranormal. So what we have in Ghostbusters Afterlife is a coming-of-age story about an autistic girl not only discovering her familial legacy and R.I.P. Harold Ramis, you know, uh, that tribute to him at the end that got me, but about finding acceptance for who she is and being among a new friend group, which includes a strengthened bond with her brother and a potentially new and, you know, seemingly ageless stepfather who also shares her interests and who doesn't run from her quirks but actively embraces them as part of what makes them a new relationship. And that passing of a torch to a new generation from an autistic creator born from an autistic special interest. This is just really great from a disability rights representation perspective and just from a general storytelling perspective. And it's great, and I hope that this movie gets all the sequels it can, and I just hope that in the next one we can celebrate this relationship properly. That's all I got for this time, folks. Take care for now, I guess. Bye-bye.